So Mari 4 got this new Megascan tab. So let's dive into Mari and see what we can do with it. For you who don't know what Megascan is about, it's a library of scanned materials, and we can now load that into Mari 4. So let's take a look here. Megascan is brought to us by Quixels, and they gracefully hooked me up with an account so I could demo with the materials in Mari. So let's take a look here at Megascan. So here's the page, it's megascans.se. So let's go into the library. So here we can see different type of materials. So this is something we can download and bring into Mari in the texture sets tab and the Megascan tab. So in my case, here we see like my favorites. That's the one that I flagged that I want to download, and we can see all the one that has a green icon. That's the one that I've downloaded. So these ones will be available in Mari 4 when I have added them to the right directory. And here we can see I have a few more favorites, and then I have scans that I've downloaded. There's, I guess, these ones I guess is for free, so that's something you can go and download yourself without having an account. But yeah, it's really nice texture sets, and here we can see, for example, if you want asphalt, you have a lot of asphalt, different types. At the moment it feels like there's nature, environment stuff, and I guess they have other materials coming into the pipe. I see there's new stuff coming almost every week at least, so there's very interesting stuff coming through here. Let's take something. I guess they have to load a bit, so yeah. So let's dive into Mari now and take a look at the texture sets and the Megascan. So here in Mari 4, let's take a look at the texture sets and the Megascan tab. So in the right sidebar here, we have the texture sets, and by default, if I pin this, nothing's gonna happen when this is a brand new install. So we have a set path here. So this is where my Megascan library is gonna be residing, and that's a map somewhere on your computer or on a network drive. So in my case, I have a NAS drive here at home, and it's called my directory where it's living. It's inside. I have a texture repository, and I made a Megascan folder here, and in this one I actually have another folder because I was testing another software from Megascan, the Quixel Megascan suite here, and when it extracts all the textures, it ends up in this folder now. So I can clean up what's outside, but let's get into this set path here and see what happens. So let's go to global here, go to my crash plan. That's my NAS drive here. It's one of the folders, and global textures, Megascan, and actually take my Megascans. Yeah, let's take this directory, the top directory there, choose, and now it starts to look inside the folders, and here we see they start to pop up Megascan materials here. We can drag this slider. In my case, it's almost extensively scans, but there's another drop down here. I can look at atlases. So this is a pile, a rubble pile or something. It's more like a paint through image. So yeah, surfaces, going back to this, we have filtering, and this is actually one of the last open betas I'm running this on at the moment. So this might change slightly for the final release, and if it does, I'm gonna do a follow-up. But anyway, let's load something into Mari. Let's take this skin here, for example. or we can zoom in to look at it more up close. Where was it? Yeah, or we can, this one that looks nasty. Let's take this one and let's right click and set add to image manager, and this is now gonna load the images inside the folder. And here we go, the inner cow skin. Let's take a look. It looks cool. And let's close down this texture set tab now, and here we can see, here we have all, I'm gonna pin this there, pin it. Yeah, so here we have a texture set. Yeah, let's start to play with it. Okay, so now we want to use our texture or our material in Mari. And in Mari 4, there's a few ways of doing this. We can do it by channels and layers, and we can do it in a node graph. However, it's not the most efficient way of doing it at the moment in Mari 4 until I hopefully Foundry implements some kind of material-based workflow. I'm gonna show a way of doing it in the channel and the layer and then the node graph, and then I'm gonna jump over actually into Mari 3.3 because we have a lot more extension pack plugins that's more suitable for this kind of purpose in there. So I'm gonna show this first in Mari 4, and then I'm gonna show it in another version of Mari, because there's a limitation at the moment in Mari 4. We don't have the extension pack until it's been compiled, so it's gonna be a look at that as well. So first off, let's make a 3 planar projection. So I hit tab 3 planar projection. I drag my texture that I want to apply here to the color channel in the different swatches here, the top, left and right. And as we see here, it doesn't look that nice at the moment. It's because it's too repeated. So we have this world scale. Let's set it to 50 maybe, and we can start to see the fleshy texture being projected from all sides. So that's fine. So now to have this in sync, the material workflow needs to be the same setting. So I would do this on one of the 3 planar projections first, and then we'll copy it. Then I would switch to another. Let's take it for the roughness, for example, and paste it here. So I get the settings, but then I would switch the map here for the roughness instead, and do this for all of the cases. And there we have the roughness. And let's go to the bump. So I hit the I button to go between channels there. Okay, so 3 planar again, I paste it in, and now we have to take the bump. Let's see, this bump here, we have the bump, so we have to take this one, and this one. And as you can see, this is kind of a tedious setup. So yeah, it would be nice with some kind of automation here, but I hope Foundry is working on that behind the scenes. Let's take a look here at my shader. Let's take my AI standard. So I want to hook up the color to the base color, and let's apply specular, and let's apply roughness to the roughness channel, specular roughness, and let's take the roughness. So here we have roughness, and I guess let's go to the Fresnel and tweak that a bit. So we can see that it's starting to play here. And now we want to display with the bump that I have hooked up as well. So let's take the bump. There we go, bump. Go to my bump settings here, add some weight to it. And here we can see, yeah, it's a setup material. Let's apply some lights to this as well. Yeah, so obviously we have to set up the other channels as well, but yeah, it's like a preview of a material here. And yeah, as you can see, it's kind of a copy and paste, and it's a little messy because you can't really sync settings between channels in an easy way at the moment. So let's take a look at the node graph now, how we can do this. Okay, so let's take a look at the node graph now. So here we have the node graph, and at the moment it's just a empty, well, it's not empty, but yeah, it's stuff there. So let's dive into this. So we have a few ways of doing it. Let's just take a look at here. Let's take one of those and drag it, and I get a tiled texture that's hooked up here. And so if we have one there, we can visualize it, and yeah, we can set to repeat. So this is a tile texture, and if we shift drag, we get a 3-planar projection hooked up. So that's cool. We have it hooked up. Let's take a look. So the thing is, it would be nice with some kind of specific nodes. So we have to do this in a few ways now to leverage this in Mari 4. Let's say that we want to do this with a 3-planar projection. So yes, we can select all of them and shift drag it. It's gonna be let's see, let's redo that and shift drag. So now, yeah, here we have it. It's like a staggered let's take a look. So here we have the color. Let's make some real estate here, and the different textures set up. So there's just a problem with this. You don't really have great nodes for, if I zoom into this, to control these in tandem. So that's something that I'm gonna show in Mari 3.3 instead. So we have some nodes there in the extension pack that's not out yet for. So the option we have at the moment is to kind of go in here, say, go to my world scale here, set it to 50, go to the next node, look at that, set it to 50. So it would be nice to have nodes to unify the scale, for example. So you have an input for the world scale, it would be nice to have here. So that's something we have actually in extension pack nodes. So to set this up at the moment in the node graph, yeah, you can do it, but it's still a lot of work to set it up. So but if you want to blend two, for example, materials, you have to set up all of these, sync them, merge them together. So yeah, material texturing is something that's very much needed in Mari, and I hope Foundry is working on a solution. So let's take a look here. Let's take let's say that we want to visualize the color, some other inputs here. Let's take a look here. I think it's the bump. So yeah, anyway, let's create a channel. So my bump, my color, hook this up to that one, and let's see which one is let's say that I think this one is the roughness. No, that's the bump actually. Bump, this is probably roughness. Yeah, let's say I want to hook up color, bump, and roughness. Let's create a channel. My spec R. Okay. So let's go to my shader here. I have AI standard. Let's take diffuse color. Yeah. So here's one material setup. Obviously you need the other ones as well if you want to have a proper material. But anyway, here's the basic of setting up materials in the node graph as well. And as you can see, it's a bit finicky to sync all the settings. Would be nice to have some kind of better suited nodes for this. So there's a way to do this in Mari 3.3 that I actually find a lot better. It's funny because the nodes that I'm talking about is not the Foundry nodes, it's the extension pack nodes. So let's dive into this in Mari 3.3. So hopefully the extension pack are gonna be compiled for Mari 4. I'm not sure when, and hopefully as well maybe Foundry is working on a better solution for actual material type workflows. So let's dive into Mari 3.3 now. Okay, so in Mari 3.3 we won't have the new Megascan texture sets tab, so we have to import our textures in other means. So I'm just gonna take a texture here and drag it into the image manager instead, like this, from where they live in my texture library. So that's another way of doing it without having. So I'm looking at this Megascan. So it's some kind of rocky, mossy texture. Let's just hook this image manager into that tab there. And so we have some more interesting nodes in the extension pack that's more suited for this workflow. So I'm gonna show a couple of ways of doing it. So if you have like tiled type of textures, you can, let's see what happens. This is the Mari way of doing it with like a tile texture. That's something you can do as well, because this is just the problem here. Yeah, you can hook up a UV, but there's a lot of issues with this workflow if you're gonna control a few different materials at the same time. So what we can do now instead, if you with the extension pack create an image node, there we have a way to assign a texture. Let's take this texture and assign it, and it's gonna apply it onto the object. However, we can't control the repeat here, so that we have to do this from outside. So we can take a Manifold Uv, and this is where it starts to get funny. Here we see we have the transform scale. We have those type of here we have the repeats, for example. So what we can do is we can hook up a number of nodes. Image, for example, here. Hook up this one to the manifold, another one here, and then we say, okay, I wanna have the bump, oops, in this one. So here we see now, when I start to use this manifold here, for example, let's say that I want 4 repeats, it's gonna repeat them all. So this is a way to have things in sync. You're gonna use this one to control all of them at once. So that's a neat way of doing this in a more controlled fashion without copy and pasting image numbers and things all over the place. Let's take another here. Let's take the this one and just hook it up to this one, and we know that it's always gonna be in sync. If I start to shift rotation, it's gonna do it on all of them. It's never gonna be any issues with like a mismatch in your settings. By controlling this, you can group this in a backdrop and call this like material A, for example. So yeah, so this is a way of doing it. Yeah, let's take a look at other nodes. So we have, for example, instead of the tree planar projection, let's look at the tree planar projection from the Mari stock one. So we don't, yeah, we have position and normal, and it's not that convenient to control this. The extension pack way of having a tree planar is the axis projection, and let's take a look at. So we see here there's a lot of more things going on here. So the axis projection is a simplified tree planar projection, so just only one image, and 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100 I always use the same texture for all of the inputs on a tree planar anyway. So this is the great way of applying stuff. We have the different repeats and stuff here in the node. Let's say that we want to hook up something here, 3 different tree planar projections. So we took the color, we want to use our this one, the AO, and this one, let's create the bump on this one. So here we have it. And what we can do now, we can use, for example, the world scale. We can hook up with a float, for example, is one way of getting numbers. So this is also a extension pack node, the float. So let's set the world scale here to all of those and see what happens. Let's take a look at this one. Where's the color? And at the moment the world scale is 0, so let's set it to 10, for example. And you see here I start to control this. I can control it with this slider. I can take additional, and when I look here, it's gonna be on all of them in sync here as well. So yeah, this is also a way of doing it. And likewise, if you want to start to control like the angle or something, you can hook up to these inputs as well. So yeah, you see that there's more possibilities in the extension pack nodes because you have inputs that you can control with things from outside. And this is very crucial when you want to do stuff like this, like on a material basis. And we have yet more powerful nodes actually when it comes to material based, and that's, we're gonna take a look at that now. Let's take a look at some other nodes now. So in Mari extension pack we have a node called, let's see, axis projection array, and that's something we can use. So let's create one here, axis projection array, and it looks like this. So what it has that regular axis projections doesn't have, that's the ability to have multiple images. So Jens Kaffitz that programmed this, I guess he made this with material and Megascans in mind. So let's take a look how we can use this. So we have the inputs here, and that's different input nodes. And let's take one of, let's take the smooth rock here and put the albedo into image A. Let's take the bump into image B. Let's take the roughness into C. And let's take displacement as well, just to have a few. Let's start with that. And take a look here. If I go to hit 1 on the output and select A, I'm gonna get the image, this image. If I hit output B, it's gonna get this image. So yeah, you get a drift, it's synced. And if we look here, we have the scale here. For example, we can set the scale here by dragging up and down here. So this is the way we can set the scale of each individual pattern or material onto the object. Then we have trends, like we can set the UV repeat here as well. We can change angles on different axes and those things. We can even tweak the blending between the different axes. So yeah, it's pretty standard for like 3-planar projections and stuff like that. So let's use another one here and say axis projection array, and let's load the other texture I had there. So let's double click on this one. Let's do it like that actually. Yeah, and let's take the other texture. So if I hit the L button here and go to my other texture, so I want to have my albedo, and then we had the bump. So it's good if it's the same order, the roughness and the displacement. Let's take a look here, output. So there we have the mossy rock. So let's tune the size of this. So I guess you're gonna start to see what I'm doing here now. So we wanna blend this together, for example. So we can do that. We can just merge different, if I would take, let's say that this one is the base. So we hook it up into output the base there from A. Then we want to have this one, the A into the over. And let's take, if I want to, for example, make a mask, I can do that. So that's pretty simple. Just hit the paint node and let's make it 4K. Let's say 16-bit and let's make it totally black. So that's like turning the top layer off and hit it into the mask. So now I can start to paint where I want, for example, my moss to appear. So we can do it like this. We can also use procedural metals like bakes and stuff like that. So let's just take something here. So there we see how we can do this. So let's just hook up a procedural way of doing this as well. So I have a few bake nodes here. So I baked occlusion, curvature and stuff like that. So I can essentially just take my orient slope, for example, if I want to do something. Let's say that I'm over here. I want to blend this with an orient slope. So let's take my radio node. Let's hook it up here with my connect to transmitter and say, okay, the orient. There we go. So this one I can, let's make a shuffle, and I want the, let's see, so the blue one is the top facing. So let's shuffle out the blue one. So this is one way you can do it. And hook that up into the merge there. And let's make a brightness look up to tweak this further. So here we have something like a procedural type of thing here going on. So we have the top facing values is gonna have moss on it. Then we have solid rock there going on. So yeah, this is the way, but I guess then if you want to, you can now make more merge nodes here and take the base there, going up there, take the mask. Let's look at that. So now we're blending the bump there. So let's make another one. I want this one and the C to that one, and I want the mask from this one. So let's take a look. So here we're blending the roughness, and let's make one for displacement. So the D into that one, and I want the mask from this one. And there we have the displacement as well. So yeah, so now we could hook this up into a material. So let's do that. Okay, so I set up this simple setup here. So we have a shader and the inputs. So we can see here my diffuse goes to the color, specular roughness, bump and displacement. So this is what I get when I have a shader. So you can see here, I can start. If I would treat this mask, for example, I can set up the actual fall off here onto my material. So I can start to tweak this. Let's say that I want to tweak the base material here, like the tiling, or this is actually the top material there. And you see I also have a displacement actually going. You can see onto the shader here. And yeah, let's tweak the shader settings. So bump, specular, oops, yeah, I can tweak that as well. Let's take the Fresnel here. We get some specular going, and displacement, go to displacement scale here and up it. This is how tessellated it's gonna be. So yeah, that's a simple setup with materials. You can start to layer more materials on top by this fashion. So yeah, if I would lay in another one, you'd just take another of these, hook up the textures, and then add another layer with the mask on top. So yeah, that's a simple way of setting up materials with a Megascan texture. So hopefully we get this support also in Mari 4 with specific nodes. I hope so, because yeah, it really makes it easier when you can collect your textures into one node instead of having to copy and paste settings for repeat and stuff to have all your images in tandem and synced across materials. That's it for this Megascan introduction. So we handled both Mari 4 and took a look here now in 3.3 to see what workflows might be possible in the future as well. So yeah, thanks for hanging out with me here at Meshmen Studio and the Mara channel. So if you want to be up to date and support my channel, consider subscribing and hit that bell notification, because yeah, then you know when I go live or produce materials like this and post it for you to enjoy. And yeah, thanks and see you on the channel. Bye.